Penis.
Mission.
Sub 5. Sub 5.
I mean,
Jesus Christ.
the music is still playing, and you just decided to come in hot, huh?
Walter.
Put
Put your away, Walter.
Walter. Put
really
your
is.
dick away,
Jesus.
Walter.
Just please stop.
This
Walter.
episode's off to a great start.
I mean, we were just looking at Breaking Bad memes while you were waiting, so it's on my mind right now.
Yeah, we were waiting for Logan to get a dub in Fortnite, so I just filled our entire Discord with Breaking Bad shitposts.
That wasn't even a joke either. That's what he was doing.
That is what I've done for the past 10 minutes.
Yeah, getting
Well, let me tell you in order. I'll ignore some of the ones that aren't Breaking Bad shitposts. So we have Walter, put the fork away, Walter. Walter, put your dick away. Call anonymously. Saul Goodman 3D. Better Fall Saul. Mike Hermantrap becomes a sex symbol. And Better Call Saul theme trap remix, parentheses, real. Get your dick out, Walter. And Jesse, we need to pray to Allah.
There's a couple other good ones
That's
in there,
the current state of the pod Discord.
It's a wonderful time whenever
Yes.
you're just trying to get a dub in a battle royale and the boys are exchanging shit posts. So how's it going, fellas?
You know,
It's alright.
just start another episode of the Bloomfeld podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. And I am your host, Nathan.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. You don't have to spell that one. I heard that one loud and clear.
Yeah, but what is my intent?
I mean, I'm pretty sure the intent was you arrived at the podcast.
Oh, he arrived already.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness, I'm arriving.
I will say, my day was alright, but it got infinitely worse when I realized my whore of a big toe had a blister on it.
Ow. What'd you do?
I don't know, it's just like on the bottom of my foot, there's like a tiny blister, and that shit hurts.
Ooh. Have you
Because
tried
my work shoes
cutting
are
it off?
several years old. I mean, yeah, it doesn't work. It grows back. Nathan, do you know how many times I've circumcised myself?
Wait a minute, it grows back for you?
Wait, it doesn't for you?
What the fuck?
Fellas, you got a condition.
Wolverine can canonically not be circumcised.
No, there's no way. You're right.
Neither can Deadpool.
Or Waluigi, apparently.
Hold up,
Wait.
what?
Waluigi.
Waluigi is uncircumcised.
Yeah, it's been proven.
Yeah,
It's canon.
Know that?
didn't Nintendo fans figure out that like Waluigi Luigi had like a 7-inch penis?
I think it's Luigi.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, it was Luigi. It was from the Mario Tennis Aces game on Switch.
Jesus
It was
Christ.
something to do with the
They measured his
rendering.
bulge.
They gave... Yeah, they gave Luigi a bulge. And first of all, what the fuck, Nintendo? Secondly, what?
Based. Also,
Based?
what the fuck is this episode so far?
It's an episode, but
It is an episode like every other episode of this podcast where we just sort of ramble on about random bullshit until one of us decides to pick a topic.
well, I mean,
That's
I have
true.
an idea of what today's going to be about. This has been something we said we were going to do for a minute, but we got sidetracked. So,
Okay, then we're not doing it because it's not topical anymore.
I mean,
Okay, well,
it's
what
only about like a week.
what are you railroading us into doing today, Nate?
We're going to do the movie review on Thor, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, we were. Fuck, that means I have to wait another week for that fucking juicy thing I was telling Logan about.
I mean, we could also just not talk about Thor. There's also that.
I mean, do you guys
I mean-
want to or not? It's up to you.
I really don't care. It's not like it's not exactly like being on track with the MCU is really important, especially because this movie was one of those kind of under the radar type of things.
Plus, it's been out for like almost 2 months at this point.
Look, I don't care. We can talk about Thor. I don't care. I'm just busting balls because
I mean,
that's
yeah,
what
we can talk about Thor. It just honestly, I did come with a topic, and I forgot we were doing the Thor review one.
I mean,
'Cause we were
I'm
just so
curious.
Off track.
I'm curious. Okay, we could just do general topics. Thor can be next week.
Well, no, the further we put off Thor, the less relevant it is. Whereas mine, it doesn't really matter because it's still pretty recent anyway.
Yeah, as far as the audience knows, it hasn't even happened yet. It's gonna happen next week.
Nathan, you're the fucking host. Like, fucking just do host shit.
Oh shit! You know I'm not good at doing host shit.
I mean, he tried to, then we challenged him on it, and then he
That's
just sort of
true.
gave up. So
Well, I didn't give up. I was trying to have a democratic solution.
Fuck
That's
your
not
democratic
the-
solution.
a democratic solution is not, well, what do you guys want to do immediately after someone challenges you on doing something?
Okay,
It's
look,
an
Logan's
It's called having
indifferent.
no backbone.
I'm fine either way. Nathan, are we doing a fucking topic episode or are we doing the Thor Love and Thunder review? I'm fine doing either.
Let's do Thor just because it'll be easy
That's
Yeah.
true.
and we don't have to think.
I mean, and it is
So
the
who
most
wants-
recent
who-
thing to talk about.
So who wants to start us off? Dylan.
I mean, Dylan is a
Start
huge
us off
Thor
with Thor,
fan.
Love and Thunder.
God damn it! Why are you putting this responsibility on me?
Because all right, well, let's start talking about Thor then. All right, so out of the three of us, me and Dylan are the only ones who have seen the other Thor movies.
Yes.
When this movie was announced, I think I saw the trailer. My dad sent me the trailer actually, because Dad loves Thor. And I remember hearing the Guns N' Roses music, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" And I gotta say, this is another classic case of Marvel trailers giving me kind of a weird vibe about the film that's not actually what's going to happen in the movie itself.
Right.
Because when I saw the movie making the rounds, I thought, oh shit, this is Thor's last movie. Because Thor's talking about how, he's reached this point now where he's just kind of looking past violence and now looking to be a peacekeeper of sorts, and that kind of gave me the ideas like this is going to be like a sort of a grand finale for Thor, because he's been around the MCU so long. He's been around since Phase 1, and now they're deciding to finally retire him. Perhaps Chris Hemsworth wants to move on to other things, or maybe they're just running out of ideas. Who knows?
I mean, Thor was
And-
the second one to get a movie, wasn't he?
I believe yes, because I think Captain America was the last one before Avengers 1. So.
Yes, which is ironic considering it's called Captain America, the first.
Oh wait,
Avenger.
no. Okay, I take it back. No, Hulk technically, because it was Iron Man then Hulk in terms of MCU.
Yeah,
movies,
but
um,
Hulk doesn't really count.
I mean,
yeah,
it kind of
but-
does.
It doesn't really. Let's be honest. Anyway,
The Incredible Hulk is a movie that is canon, but you could totally say it isn't, and half of the MCU fans would believe you because it really didn't have an effect on anything.
yeah. Plus,
So-
it's not like it keeps the same actor or anything. It's like
Well, it has nothing to do with the actor because people are open to they recasted Rhodey for example, but
well, yeah,
Now
'cause
it's the
that's how
legendary
it's
Don Cheadle.
look, it's just the Incredible Hulk didn't have any bearing on anything.
It
But
really
look, that's
didn't.
that's a different discussion. Entirely.
That's true. That's
so
The Incredible Hulk was just a nothing movie. I mean, it was fun, but nothing movie overall.
Okay, Thor was the third one to get a movie, but the second one
Yeah.
to get a movie that mattered. How about that?
there we go. All right,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So Thor, for how long he's been around, and the icing on the cake was the very last thing you see before it drops the title and the trailer ends. You see they're bringing back Natalie Portman as Jane, and she has Mjolnir. It's reforged, and now she's Mighty Thor, or just Thor essentially. So it gave me this vibe. It's like, okay, this is it. This is a passing of the torch deal. Like, this is the end of Thor, and Jane's taking on the Thor mantle. That is not at all what happens in this movie.
Here's
No,
the thing, the
it's-
passing the mantle sort of happens, but not at all in the way that you thought it was going to.
But also, I don't believe the passing of the mantle is per se passing it onward, more so extending it. Because,
That's
this is...
fair.
Because Thor's going to be in another movie. Like, we saw the credits and it said Thor's going to return, and we know for fucking sure they're not talking about the other person. So,
Yeah. What to be fair, I mean, obviously the audience knows we're getting into spoiler territory.
of course.
I think with the end of Thor and with the end of some of the other recent MCU things, they're setting up for the Young Avengers or whatever.
The
which
next
is-
generation.
Yeah.
Which
is
She-Hulk
basically
also doing.
Yeah, which is basically well, that's to a degree, but I'm talking about actually kids being the next Avengers. I think there's a
Oh,
few
yeah,
things
yeah.
that are
Like
setting-
children.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the-
Spider-Man, Kate Bishop.
possibly Scarlet Witch's twins.
Wait, really?
There's some talk about that, but anyway.
I mean, I guess they
'Cause-
would have her powers, I suppose,
yeah.
but it's just what?
Well, if you watch WandaVision, her kids do have powers, And
I
now
never noticed. Oh wait, I never watched that show. Shit,
Yeah.
sorry.
yeah, well, that's the thing is if you watch Multiverse of Madness, you don't really know. But yeah, one of them I think has like telekinesis, and the other one's like has super speed or some shit, like Pietro.
Which
So-
is weird because those were those weren't natural changes. So that actually never mind. I don't know anything about genetics.
It's weird.
Just move on. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so this movie basically sets up another like young / kid Avenger, I think, with the extending of the torch, so to speak.
The Kid Avengers.
Yeah, and overall the movie is good. It's not as good as Ragnarok, but to be fair, Ragnarok is a very, very high bar to set. It's like one of my top 5 MCU films in its entirety, so...
If I were to rank Thor: Love and Thunder on the Thor scale, I would say I like it. It's probably near the bottom for me, because my least favorite is Dark World for a lot of reasons, but also I haven't seen that movie since it came out, but there's, again, reasons for that. I would say this is the next one on the totem pole. This was a fun movie, but there are things about the film I do want to talk about, and it's not like it's an overly negative thing. I just think that as far as Thor movies go, this is one of the weaker ones. Thor 1 is my second favorite, and then Ragnarok's at the top.
For me, it goes Ragnarok, and then Thor, and the first Thor and Thor: Love and Thunder, I think are tied for second. If I absolutely had to pick, probably the first Thor, just because it's different. Like, that's the thing is, like, Thor and Thor 1 and 2 is, definitely a more, like, serious, kind of brooding-ish character. And then he definitely has a huge tonal shift in Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. It's not a bad thing. It's just, some people like serious, like Shakespearean Thor. Some people like goofy Thor. I like both. I think Ragnarok had a better balance, but, it is what it is.
That's one of the things you learn very quickly when Love and Thunder start. Well, okay, it doesn't start up, but when it takes off, the beginning of the film is actually quite somber and very odd because it starts out with our villain here, the God Slayer. I don't remember his name.
Gore, the God Butcher.
Yeah, the God Butcher. Sorry, Butcher Slayer.
Acted by the legend himself, Christian Bale.
Yeah, another Batman in a Marvel film.
As a
We're
villain.
halfway there. We're halfway there.
That's amazing.
Pretty soon they'll all be in here.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so we get the opening, and I gotta say, it was very weird because I thought it was a trailer for another movie, and then I realized, wait a minute, is this Thor?
This is the movie. Oh shit!
It does start out weird because it starts out with Gore and his daughter traversing the desert, and his daughter actually dies, and then he finally reaches an oasis in the desert, and Gore starts munching down on fruit and stuff, and then he realizes he's being mocked by the god he was a disciple of.
Like the sun god or some shit.
Yeah, he basically tells the god, he's like, all of your disciples are dead. Like, is this the paradise I've been trying to get to? And this god is just a dickhead. Like, he doesn't give a shit his daughter died. He's like, oh, there'll always be more disciples. And the god had just killed someone who had the Necro Sword, which is this fucking evil sword that has the capability of killing gods. And Gore pisses him off, and the god picks him up by the neck. The sword goes into Gore's hand, and he kills the god, and then makes his vow, since his daughter died, that all gods will die. And he gets his cool supernatural powers.
The sword senses his hatred, I assume.
The sword curses him because the more you use the sword, the more pain and corruption you are in, and you just sort of die eventually.
Yeah.
So,
cool sword though.
We get back to then we get to see Thor, who's looking very hippie like, hanging out with the Guardians will do that to you. Yeah, and Thor's back in shape in this movie. Okay, I'm happy with that.
Told the story of Thor's comeback.
Yeah. Court narrates it because he goes from he says he goes from dad bod to god bod.
Yeah. Which, team god bod here in terms of Thor. And then we get to see a little bit of the Guardians, which I thought they were going to have a bigger role than what we see in the film. It turns out they're just here for a continuation of things. It's like, yeah, we're still here, and then they go about their business because Thor quickly realizes after a quick phone call from Sif, is like, oh shit, I need to be a god again. So
yes, Also, Sif is back, which is nice.
Yeah, Star-Lord drops
Yeah, after
some
being-
heaters of advice on top of Thor's face, and then he leaves.
Yeah, after being so mysteriously absent in Ragnarok, Sif is back. I assumed she was dead. Like, I thought they just forgot about her.
A lot of people assume she was dead because the Warriors 3 all get killed by Hela in Ragnarok. Lady Sif was off-world, from what I know, and you do find out... Well, you don't really find out, but, like, she actually does appear in Loki in, like, a flashback. But yeah, this movie actually, like, brings her back properly. I wish she had had a bigger role, but there's a lot happening in the film, to be fair, so...
There's a love
Maybe
triangle
Thor
between
5.
Thor, his old bitch, and also a hammer in it.
Yeah, kind of continuing how, like, the movie starts off on a somber note. Obviously, you know, Jane is back as a focal point in this movie, and she's dying of cancer.
Yep.
And the chemo hasn't worked.
Well, she got diagnosed at stage 4, I believe.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that was, yikes.
Pretty heavy. She basically reads, because, you know, she saw some of those old Norse mythology books when, like, she first met Thor, and she, like, finds out that Mjolnir has the, like, potential to, like healing property, like it can heal its wielder, which we have seen before, because in the first Thor it, like, resurrects him when he fucking gets bitch smacked to death by the Destroyer.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long for them to reunite, which is good, because we didn't want to spend a lot of time with the, you know, we want to actually get them back on screen together.
Yes.
We go back to New Asgard, and they are fighting a bunch of Gore's little fucking
Epic
night
Mickey
monsters,
enemies.
whatever they're supposed.
The
Yeah,
shadow
epic
demons.
Mickey monsters. They do look like they're made of ink. And I gotta say, their whole Jane and Thor's side plot. It is nice that they do give a bit of context of why they broke up, because you know, it was very much a throwaway line in Ragnarok, and I believe it had something to do with Natalie Portman just not wanting to be in the role anymore after Thor 2.
Which is wild, that the fact that she wouldn't want to come back when MCU was peaking around the time of Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You think, boatload of money? Yeah, I'll take it, sure.
Yeah, they already took over, like, pop culture by the time the first Avengers came out, and she came back after that for Thor: The Dark World, but maybe it was because she was attached to the solo Thor films, and those weren't exactly the best of the MCU. Maybe it kind of turned her away from it. I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know. It could have been she was
actually,
just doing other projects at the time, but...
I'm going to look into it.
I'm gonna find out what's going
yeah,
on.
we probably should. We should probably know at least somewhat what the fuck we're talking about. Anyway, yeah, basically, Gore attacks New Asgard. Thor helps defend it along with Valkyrie and realizes he sees Mjolnir and he's like, oh, holy shit, Mjolnir's back. And then he realizes that Jane is now wielding it. And it's weird because honestly, the awkward, like, thing between X's is more between Thor's hammers than it is with him and Jane. Because, like, Stormbreaker gets jealous of Mjolnir.
It's very funny.
It's very funny. It's very goofy, but I like it.
And like,
So,
what was it? They were in like a hall or something, and Thor was like, "Come here, Mjolnir, come here." He sticks his hand out, and then Stormbreaker comes up behind him, is like, "There you are. I was just trying to find."
Also, one thing I like that this movie did is at the beginning when Thor and the Guardians are together, like, Thor basically just shows up all of the Guardians by being a one-man army, because in Ragnarok, in the opening of the movie, you have what's essentially serves as the swan song of Mjolnir, and you see this really epic scene. Probably the most epic fight scene Thor has of Mjolnir is in Ragnarok right before he loses it. And I like that they gave him an equally epic fight scene with Stormbreaker at the beginning of this movie, because Thor, really, you don't see him use Stormbreaker that much, because he uses it some in Infinity War and some in Endgame, but, like, obviously where it's not like a solo Thor movie, it's not like the focal point. So getting to see Stormbreaker, you know, wreck shit was cool.
So from the little bit of digging I did, apparently it had a lot to do with Natalie Portman's contract ran out after Dark World, and she actually did choose to step away from the MCU due to creative differences, because they actually had changed directors for Thor: The Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it was supposed to be Patty Jenkins, and Natalie Portman was pretty happy about that. But the director then parted ways with Marvel Studios due to creative differences, which reportedly leaving the star feeling deeply unhappy. So I guess they kind of screwed Patty Jenkins over on what she wanted to do with the second Thor, and that kind of upset Portman.
Understandable.
It seems Taika Waititi. Taika Waititi managed to smooth things over from what the digging I've done here. So yeah, she was just I guess just done. Which I guess she had foresight, because Thor: The Dark World is considered the worst MCU film, right up next to the Incredible Hulk. So maybe she kind of had some foresight there.
Hold on, I'm about to say something that is probably going to get me assassinated. I like Thor: The Dark World. Not only do I like Thor: The Dark World, I like it more than Black Panther.
I never saw Black Panther.
I know you guys haven't seen it. I'm just saying, there's probably going to be someone in the audience who, one day will hear this and be like, I'm going to kill him. I will kill this man.
That racist piece of garbage.
I never watched Black Panther because it was an origin film at a time I didn't give a shit about origin films, and it is now on what I like to call the backlog, when it will stay there until
probably one
I
of my
to actually rewatch the MCU in its entirety.
Considering how many people love the Black Panther movie, it is probably one of my most controversial takes that it's very mediocre for an MCU film. Like, it's enjoyable to watch. Like, I definitely would, like, if I saw it on TV, I would watch it, but it's like it's mid. It's mid at best.
I don't go back to any of the origin movies anymore, really, because
That's
I had
fair.
seen them so fucking
Iron Man 1, baby.
I love Iron Man 1. I love Thor 1. But if I'm going to sit down and watch them over the sequels where they have more toys to play with, more characters, more development, why would I watch Iron Man 1 over 2 or 3 when I can see Rhodey in action? Why would I watch it over the Avengers when I can see all the Avengers working together? That's
guess
why I like Age of Ultron more than the first Avengers. I like seeing them already working together.
I haven't actually watched the origin films, but like a handful of times, so that's why it's like not as like heavy of burnout for me. Like, I watched Thor 1 and Thor 2 for the first time in like years, like a year ago.
Yeah, it's not exactly the most popular of opinions, but I think the only one who's considered a major origin film really is Iron Man, and I guess Black Panther, because other than that, Captain America and Thor, I think, were just seen as they're okay.
Thor 1 is underrated in my opinion.
For Thor and Captain America, people like their sequels more than their initial films.
Except the Dark
And with
World.
Thor, I mean Ragnarok for Thor, of course, obviously.
Fair, Ragnarok is one of the most fantastic MCU films.
Oh, easily. It's probably in my top 3.
Especially because of it's tragic that movie is so good, and it ends on a decent note, and then Infinity War immediately happens. It's like,
it ends on a very uncertain note, because it just ends with Thor and Loki being like, I'm sure everything will be fine now, and then Thanos' ship appears above them, and they're like, and then it cuts to black. That's how Ragnarok ends.
Yeah, you're right.
That's
I guess
horrible.
I was thinking more of like 5 minutes before the end, where it's like, okay, well, Asgard is destroyed, but we're together, and that's what matters. And then, but yeah, you're right.
Then Thanos kills everyone.
Then they fucking hit you with the uppercut, because Thanos' ship appears, and it's like, oh fuck, Infinity War's coming.
Yeah.
But then again, Infinity War is probably my favorite MCU film, and it's so fucking good. But that's not what we're here talking about. We keep being so off topic from Thor: Love and Thunder.
So how about the goats?
The screaming goats.
I enjoy origin films. Thanks for asking.
All right. Well,
I found it pertinent.
Nathan, you believe it or not, you can fucking give your thoughts at any point. It's your goddamn podcast.
I don't know. I just couldn't think of a good time to interject, I guess.
But
Oh,
then, don't be a passive-aggressive asshole. Being like, oh, well, thanks for asking me. It's like...
all right. Well, all right, continue. What do you want to say?
I like origin films and, like, movies and whatnot. But, like, I don't have a ton of basis for the MCU.
Fantastic contribution, Nathan.
What?
This is why we talk over you.
Look. Look, I'm sorry, but I assumed you didn't have anything to say because we were talking about the MCU and you haven't watched these movies. I'm sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to. We didn't mean to just leave you in the dust there.
I just didn't really know what to say because we were supposed to be talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, a movie that I did see.
There's references and callbacks to other things, so we talked about that.
It's relevant.
It is relevant. Anyway, we will get back to let's get back to a more pure discussion of just straight up Love and Thunder.
I mentioned the goats. I brought us to the goats. I'll say that.
Anyway,
I brought us
it's
to
a
the goats.
joke.
After Gore attacks New Asgard, Thor and Jane meet up. Thor's like, okay, this man's literally trying to kill all the gods. So he goes to what was the place called? Was it Utopia or some shit?
Oh, I don't know.
He goes to this place where like all of the gods meet, and like the leader of them is Zeus, the god of lightning. And Thor's like, obviously I've based my career off of his,
Omnipotent City. Omnipotent City.
Yeah, that's what it was. And at first, Thor, like Jane and Valkyrie are like, okay, well, let's just like fucking interrupt this shit and like go talk to Zeus. And Thor's like, no, you can't do that. Like you'll interrupt. And Zeus hears them talking and basically calls Thor up to the stage. But they're wearing like disguises. They're wearing like cloaks and shit. And that's where you get the comical scene where Zeus, who's played by Russell Crowe, he says, "I take off with your disguise," and he flicks, and it makes Thor go completely naked, and you see his whole ass, and
his entire ass.
Everyone's shocked, and there's a harem of women next to Zeus, and like half of them faint. And then, like, you can tell Jane and Valkyrie are enjoying themselves, and Jane's like, should we help him? And Valkyrie's like, yeah, in a minute. And she's, like, eating popcorn. Because, it's funny if a male's getting objectified. Anyway.
Zeus just drops the word orgy a couple times in a kid's film.
Yes, he does. He does drop the word orgy, like, 4 times, which is surprisingly PG-13 rated.
Are you coming to the orgy? Anyone else come to the orgy?
As long as we see no dick and they say fuck only one time, it's okay for the younger crowd.
True. That's the thing, though. We couldn't get a singular titty. Anyway.
No.
Anyway.
Only one. Not a pair.
You
only
fool.
one.
So, Thor tries to convince Zeus. It's like, hey, we need to raise an army of gods to fight Gore. Zeus is like, he's not going to be able to come to Omnipotent City or whatever. You're a joke. And then he tries to bring Valkyrie and Jane to the stage. And before he flicks off their disguises, they just take them off.
Nope, we're good.
Because, fuck. And Zeus has this really cool lightning bolt that he throws around, can like call back to himself, similar to Mjolnir. And they end up fighting like Zeus's soldiers, and then Thor catches Zeus's lightning bolt, and he fucking kills him with it. He throws it through Zeus's fucking chest. So
yeah, it's actually it's very funny. It's like, yeah, we're going after a god killer. And then Thor takes out probably the head honcho of the gods without breaking a sweat. It's like, all right.
And then
sweet.
The goats that are now pulling their literally like flying Viking spaceship like bust in, help them escape. They Bifrost out with Stormbreaker. And now they're like, okay, well, we have a weapon at least to try to fight Gore, but we have no army whatsoever. And we didn't mention at this point, Gore has kidnapped several children from New Asgard, including Heimdall's son. Yeah, Axel. Astrid is what it was. But he renamed himself to Axel after Axl Rose.
Because Guns N' Roses.
Yes.
Can I mention this real quick? This is probably an unpopular opinion. The massive amount of Guns N' Roses fan service and songs kind of got annoying, I'm going to be honest.
I didn't get it. Like, I didn't mind the songs, which is, the songs were fine, but I didn't get all the jokes about... Maybe it was just Astrid, and maybe it just really stuck out to me, but, like, why are they so tongue-in-cheek about it?
I feel like Guns N' Roses just really tickled the balls of I'm having to start Marvel execs. Why do I want to say Microsoft? Marvel execs.
I think Taika Waititi kind of had like a I think he just went on like fan fiction mode, because this is an overarching problem I have with the entire movie, is that it just feels like Waititi just saw Ragnarok's reception and was like, well, what if I talked about orgies, sex, and rock and roll even more, and just made an entire movie about it.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I rank this one probably below the first one. And you know, the only reason it's above Dark World, this is a very unpopular opinion, the only reason it's above Dark World is I don't remember anything in Dark World. I just remember not really caring about the movie. So this was one of those MCU films where I enjoy myself. It was fun, and I would definitely watch it again.
Right.
But this one came off as a little more shallow, and I didn't want to get into this until we were done with the plot, but like, you know, it has like two very important things going on. That's Gor's killing gods and Jane has cancer.
Yes.
So it felt like Waititi was like, holy shit, these are really dark and heavy subject matters. So the rest of the film is just going to be completely taking the piss out of things. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a comedy film. You know, I think Love and Thunder is very much a comedy, and that's fine for a superhero endeavor. I feel like the comedy doesn't always stick.
No.
I brought up the screaming goats.
Cheap joke.
It's not even a cheap joke. No, it's just straight up stupid. It's not funny because like you're talking about a meme that was back in 2009. I know the MCU has a major audience of children, but I don't think they're gonna get it because I feel like the screaming goats kind of came and went pretty fast. We were kids when that shit was making the rounds. I don't know. It's very odd, and I will admit the final act of this film is the best part of the movie because it steps up a bit.
Yes.
With the tone. This was part of my issue with Thor in Endgame. I feel like his entire role, like, and I know it's topical or it's seen as really well done in Endgame because Thor had depression and stuff, and he's using the humor to mask it. He's fat, so lol, he's fat, but it's depression. You know, I get it. But that was done a bit better. Here, it's more of overcompensating for a balance, and that's what I felt about Thor. That's how I felt about him in Endgame. Is like it felt like the entire reason that he was a joke was just because the subject matter of the rest of the film was kind of heavy. So this is kind of like, let's say, Endgame was 75% serious and 25% Thor jokes. This film is the antithesis of that. It's 75% jokes and 25%, oh god, there's actually a dude out here trying to kill gods.
Yes, and he's kidnapped children.
The movie itself,
he's kidnapped children.
It's just goofy. It's too much of it is just goofy. It's not even like, I don't know. It's not that I hate it. I really don't. I did enjoy the film. But it felt like it was going way too out of its way just to be all like silly, lol, funny, random, and then the movie ends with some of the most depressing shit. And it's like, I just get tonal whiplash.
Honestly, I think that's kind of been a problem with Phase 4 in general with several MCU projects. With Thor, with Multiverse of Madness, the first episode of She-Hulk, where it's like sometimes it's just a little too campy, and it's like I get it, like obviously comedy's always been a big thing in Marvel films, but it's like, and there still needs to be comedy in these films, but it's like also these films are supposed to be like setting up towards the next big things, so like having so much campiness in some of the movies kind of like takes away from that.
I don't think superheroes should be completely devoid of humor, and then even then, like, I liked some of the humor in this movie. I think the problem was we shouldn't have had this kind of plot go along with all this type of comedy.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they're a little too scared to do that with Thor now, because considering how Thor 1 and Dark World turned out. But, Ragnarok did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Well, I think that's been a problem with Thor's arc over the MCU in general, is from Thor 1, Thor 2, Avengers, and it kind of starts breaking around Age of Ultron, where we start seeing a little bit more of the humorous side and less serious Thor. Ragnarok has a good balance, in my opinion, and then he immediately goes to angry, hellbent on revenge Thor, Infinity War, which is closer to, like, Thor 1. And then he gets his, hollow vengeance.
Labasco. Lebowski.
And then he goes to like laughingstock, haha, fat Thor in Endgame. So then he just becomes a laughingstock, and now in Love and Thunder, it's trying to bounce back from that, but it can't get back to the balance it had in Ragnarok.
Like, let's say if the film, I think it would have helped if the film just went along with it the entire way. Like, let's say you keep the intro, right? Keep that sort of somber feeling.
Yeah.
Gore gets made fun of. He's, obviously the tone shifts immediately there when the gods start making fun of him. He kills him, but it sort of just keeps becoming a joke after that.
Yeah.
I think that would have been better. Like, just maintain that. But then throughout the film, it was like, oh god, children are gonna die. Gore the God Butcher is a thing.
Yeah.
And a campy film. Like, it feels like they try a little too hard to keep you invested with the whole, this is a really serious situation here, and Thor's laughing.
Yeah, you're laughing.
I think if they just said fuck it and went the entire comedy route, I think it would have helped the film a bit better.
Yeah, I do think the tonal conflicts are a problem of the film. Because, towards the end of the film, Thor and Jane have a conversation where, before Thor finds out that Jane has cancer, he's like, I want to throw caution in the wind. I want to live every day like it's our last. And Jane's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's, rescue these kids because I'm dying. And he's like, what? No. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're dying?
See, that's what I mean. That's what I mean,
Yeah.
though. That was in the final act of the film. I really like that. Like, I think the entire final act of this movie should have been the entire film.
I mean, the final act is amazing, but it's just...
Yeah.
Because in the final act, though, Gore gets to eternity or whatever, basically like this all-powerful, wish-granting being. Thor is basically just the Mjolnir's not saving Jane enough because it's honestly draining her life force to keep her powerful. So Jane is dying when they reach eternity, and Thor's like, Gore, you've already won. Why would I want to spend my last moments fighting you when I could spend it with the person I love? And Gore realizes he's in a similar boat because that sword is killing him, and he's like, well, what's the point of killing all the gods or bringing back my daughter because she'll be alone? But then Thor's like, she doesn't have to be. So that's where it sets up the next Young Avengers is Jane dies and goes to Valhalla, and Gore dies, but his daughter comes back to life through the power of eternity, and Thor is now raising her as his adopted daughter.
Yeah.
Jane got to go to Valhalla with Sif's arm.
They don't show Sif's arm. Yeah, it is worth mentioning. Sif loses her arm, and she's like, "Don't worry about me, Thor. Let me die in the field of battle." And Thor's like, "Well, the battle's kind of already over, so you're not gonna go to Valhalla." And she's like, "Oh shit,
Your arm's in Valhalla."
Your arm's in Valhalla.
See that? Yeah, that was a good scene. I really like that. I think if Watiti trimmed the fat a little, and I say that this is actually one of the shorter films, but I think if he trimmed the fat a little where the comedy wasn't as overwhelming, I think it would have been a home run.
Yeah.
But I just think they went a little too over, and I feel like, and I'm not gonna say they ruined the entire movie, but shit like the screaming screaming goats really dragged me down a peg. I'm not gonna lie.
I think the problem is Ragnarok was such a huge success, and it's such a hard act to follow. And now in phase 4, where there's just the MCU's, I think, in general, struggling to a degree to find their footing overall with audiences as a whole.
Yeah.
And part of the problem is Thor's had so many different arcs, and he's been handled by so many different directors over so many different films, where each director has their own vision of what Thor is and should be, and those visions conflict more often than not.
I don't think. Go ahead, Nate.
What I think could possibly be an issue then, which is an issue with just handing a character off to more and more writers and directors, is the comical part of Thor and who he is starting to maybe get Flanderized a little bit as time goes on. Is that think you guys could agree with that a little?
Maybe. What exactly are you saying? I think before I say anything else.
Well, I just think as time goes on and, Thor gets passed around to more and more writers and directors, his character is going through a bit more Flanderization than any other MCU character.
So you think they're more like he's becoming more of a caricature of himself rather than a character?
He's being more
Is that what you're
boiled
saying,
down to like his basic traits, and they're just getting over exaggerated instead of making him as deep as he used to be.
I think part of the problem is you have Ragnarok, which is this huge success, and it has a good balance of seriousness and campiness. And then you have very dark, hell-bent on rage, which is understandable Thor in Infinity War. And then you have him turn into a laughingstock Endgame. And Love and Thunder, to me, feels like, it's like, oh no, Thor's just, he's being all jokey and stuff like he was in Ragnarok. But like, it tries too hard to get back to that after all the shit that has happened between Ragnarok and Love and Thunder.
I don't agree. I don't think the problem is Thor's character. When I'm talking about the comedy, I'm talking about everyone. Like, I'm talking about the entire film, because I don't think it's a character issue. I think it's a writing issue, like, due to the plot. Everyone is cracking jokes. Everyone's taking the piss out of things
that's
at
true.
inappropriate times. Thor being more lighthearted and jovial is not a problem for me. I have no problem with Thor being happy, and that's kind of it has more of a, again, that's what I was thinking of this film from the get-go, and that still is kind of the thing here. Thor is he's growing, he's changing as a person. He's not piss and vinegar anymore. He's more sugar, spice, and everything nice who carries around a giant axe. And I'm fine with that. I just think, like, the timing and the structure of the comedy was a little overbearing, and I don't think that had anything to do with Thor as a character, because like there's other characters in the film that do it as like Korg exists to take the piss out of everything.
Yes,
he's a comic relief character by design.
I'm not necessarily saying it's a problem with Thor as a character. I'm saying the problem with
I know you're not saying that.
Yeah.
I was explaining why I don't agree with Nathan's point.
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of feel like MCU films feel like they're scared to be super serious sometimes. Not all of them, because that would be a lie completely if I said all of them, because there are plenty of them that are just almost completely serious with just a few jokes here and there. But I feel like there are a lot of MCU films, and granted I haven't seen a ton of them. From the ones I have seen, though, it seems like they're focused way too much on having a plot and then also making everyone just a wisecracking asshole on top of it. It doesn't feel like there's a ton of serious characters in the MCU films.
That's why this film, to me, comes off a little strange, because they try to keep a serious tone, and then it's overshadowed by a lot of comedy. Yeah. I think if the film just went all the way with the comedic side of things, I think it would have been a bit better. Maybe it was a little too scatterbrained for me, because Iron Man was a wisecracking asshole. There's a lot of humor in his films, but movies like Iron Man, take 1 and 3 primarily as examples. Those films have a pretty consistent tone. This one felt a little scatterbrained.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it that it was a comedy. I just wish they put all the eggs in that basket, because it comes off as this film doesn't know what it wants to do for a good chunk of it. Like, I would say at least a good third of the film feels like it doesn't know what it wants to do in terms of tone.
I think
because Doctor Strange, I'm sorry to cut you off, Dylan, but just to finish the point, Doctor Strange 2 and Spider-Man 3, No Way Home, they did a pretty good job of having serious films, and then Doctor Strange was a bit more of a balanced type of film with the comedy and the serious tone. So so making Thor, our next comedy movie would have been just fine. I don't know. Maybe comedy is heavily subjective, so maybe some people thought this was a perfect comedy film. I don't know. Maybe it just didn't click.
I think the difficult thing with the comedy is they try. Some of it's like forced and it doesn't come off natural. And like I've said before, like bouncing from his arc in Ragnarok, where he achieves a pretty good balance, to what happens to him in Infinity War and Endgame, to then try to bounce right back to kind of how he was to Ragnarok, but growing more. It's like there's a lot of things that have happened between Ragnarok and Love and Thunder. So, like, trying to basically return to form of Ragnarok, it's kind of difficult. And Love and Thunder, it's trying to be like Ragnarok, but it still has some of this shit of Endgame of Thor, like, being very campy of a character. But one thing I was gonna say is, we're talking about like the balance of like serious tones and shit. I would say in Phase 4, my favorite MCU thing that has had a good serious tone would be Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight had a good like balance where it was more serious, but it still had like lighthearted stuff in it as well.
I would, in terms of balancing, maybe Moon Knight or Doctor Strange. I would say my favorite thing out of Phase 4 was Spider-Man: No Way Home thus far. But you're talking about character writing, particularly.
Right.
See that? That's not necessarily my issue with it, but I think for the next film, and I'm pretty sure that there's talks of it already, so this is probably not going to happen. My hope for the next Thor is it doesn't have Taika Waititi handling the director's chair this time around. Just 'cause
Yeah.
I feel like he tried a little too hard to kind of go through Ragnarok again, because there's a lot of beats here that you can kind of recognize as similar from Ragnarok, they just don't hit quite as hard.
Right.
Like the orgy jokes.
Yeah.
There's an omnipotent leader of a bunch of people, Zeus here. And I don't remember what Jeff Goldblum's character was in Ragnarok.
He was the like Grand Master or some shit.
Yeah, but there's orgy jokes about them because they're men of leisure and have a lot of money and power. So orgies.
I mean, to be fair, Zeus definitely did have orgies, but it was very ham-fisted. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
Zeus
but this is
fucks
also
everything.
Yeah, but this is also the follow-up to This is essentially the next Thor movie. So with Ragnarok not being that old, some of this stuff comes off as he's just kind of making a very similar style movie here, you know what I mean? Like, it almost kind of comes off as he's just retreading the same ground.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I feel like I would have enjoyed the film a little bit more if it wasn't afraid to be a little bit more serious. But I understand the fact that it's an MCU film, and the MCU is more or less pigeonholed themselves into this point where they're kids' films. They can't really be that serious, otherwise the children won't like it. But then again, this also comes from a DC fanboy who, DC is much more used to being a bit more serious with comedy sprinkled in, while the MCU feels like it's the other way around.
DC makes movies.
I mean,
you could have fooled me.
Holy shit.
I mean, like, I'm not even talking much about the movies, just like, DC media in general, like the TV shows that they have and whatnot, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's also true. But was there something else you needed to add, Dylan? Because I feel like we should jump back into the third act of the film and kind of wrap this up here.
Nah, I think we're good to finish.
I want to get inside your rucksack.
Yeah, so Thor and Jane have a talk, and they eventually Jane kind of cracks and tells him that she has cancer because their feelings start to kind of rekindle. And
I want to feel shitty about you for the rest of my life.
Yeah, this unfortunately leads to a bit of a problem because Thor doesn't want to lose Jane again, especially now that she wants to be here again, and Thor feels like this is finally that purpose that he's been longing for a little bit. And they eventually do encounter Gore, and honestly, another really good scene in this movie is when Gore's trying to coerce Thor into summoning Stormbreaker. And it was really funny when I really did like how Jane realizes it's a trap and she takes Stormbreaker, just chucks it out of there. That got a pretty good hearty laugh out of me in the theater.
She did just yeet that shit.
Yeah, I loved that. That was great. But after Gore springs his trap, they managed to thwart him for a little while, but unfortunately he gets the axe and disappears. And he's on his way to unlocking Kingdom Hearts or whatever the fuck that place was.
Eternity.
So, Eternity, of course. How did I not think of that?
Thor, the essence of the heart is in eternity.
You see, darkness is the heart's true essence.
And I will use the darkness to bring back my child.
So, Thor and Jane have a really nice scene back on Earth because unfortunately they realize very quickly that Mjolnir is actually not rejuvenating Jane at all. It's actually killing her.
Yeah.
Which confuses the fuck out of me, but whatever. Yeah. We're going to go with it. The cancer is accelerating. She's growing weaker. She's barely able to stand. So Thor just puts her in the hospital and is like, you do not pick up that hammer again. I swear to God. Unfortunately, I can't remember exactly how it plays out. Thor manages to take on Gore for a minute, but he's getting his ass beat. And he arms the children.
Yeah.
That was cool. I liked that. That was
arms
nice.
The children, and then another Guns N' Roses song.
To be fair, it is Asgardian children we're talking about. An Asgardian child could probably rip a normal man in half.
Oh yeah, they're like the Spartans
Yeah.
usually. But so Jane intervenes against Thor's wishes, and they manage to defeat Gore. Kind of. They beat up Gore, and they managed to break his demon sword, but Eternity is unlocked.
Kingdom Hearts is open.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is open, and then it's all water. It's actually quite underwhelming. And then Thor decides to spend his last moments with Jane because she's unfortunately too far gone, and Gore manages to see his daughter again. And,
Yeah, it looks like they're in that boss fight room in Bloodborne where they fight the giant spider.
Oh, fuck that room. fuck that game. Anyway, so Thor and Gore, after Thor and Jane say their goodbyes, Gore manages to hold his child once more, and then as two people pass on, we're just left with Thor and the kid sort of standing there, is like, I'm gonna adopt you. So
I
Thor's a
am your
dad
dad.
now, and gives Mjolnir to her.
It actually gives Stormbreaker to her.
Oh yeah. That's right.
I will admit, that is funny.
Yeah, he gives Stormbreaker to her, and Thor has Mjolnir again.
Yeah.
It really comes full circle.
It's
Man,
like,
that's
okay.
that gives a weird context to that one scene in Infinity War where Cap has the hammer. And it's like, here, you get the small one.
Endgame.
Oh, Endgame.
But yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
No, they're
funny,
both
he's like,
big movies
okay.
about big shit.
He's like, okay, I've adopted this 8-year-old girl. I have this relatively small hammer and this giant battle axe hammer. You can have the giant battle axe hammer.
No, Thor has favoritism.
Yeah, I mean, Thor, that's the thing, is like, as much as Thor's like, damn, I want to get back to Jane, like, him, like, seeing Mjolnir again, he's like, holy shit. Because as it's explained in Ragnarok, losing Mjolnir was just as heavy as losing family members to Thor. Because he's had that hammer his entire life.
The hammer
It was a
pulled him
weapon
off, though,
forged specifically for him. God, Jesus
Pulled
Christ.
him off.
The hammer pulled you off. Oh my lord. No!
Jesus Christ.
I love when Nathan's on a delay. Because
God.
it's like Nathan's in the middle of a sentence. No!
Ah! God, yeah. New router might be on a delay until the new router gets like warmed up or something. I don't know.
Oh no, I it's not that big of a delay. It was like a second. The audience has no idea what the hell we're talking about anyway. The film ends there. We get the post-credit scene of Jane going to Valhalla, which was cool to see Heimdall again. I'm really glad that they brought Idris Elba back just
Idris
for one
Elba.
scene. Idris Elba, sorry.
Tails, you
I'm a
really
horrible
fucked
person.
up now. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Idris
Knuckles.
Elba.
It was really cool they brought him back. It makes me happy. And I don't know if it means anything for the future, for if that means Jane could ever come back. Probably not. But it was just kind of a nice little, there is a heaven in the MCU world for Vikings anyway.
Yeah, that's something I like that the MCU has done, is there are different afterlives depending on your culture.
Your religion.
Yeah, your religion and your culture. It's been shown in Black Panther. It's been shown in Love and Thunder now. It's been shown in Moon Knight. And I think that's a really good take on how to, show afterlives and things like that in the MCU, which has a great many different characters based off of great many different cultures and religions and things, is it's like your culture, you go to your culture's afterlife rather than there just being one, there not being any, I think that's a good way of approaching it.
It's comic book world, so I mean,
Right.
in a world where gods and shit like that exist, of course, afterlives and stuff are multiple afterlives and stuff like that are not that far-fetched. I feel like, in a world of science fiction, why wouldn't they exist?
Yeah, it makes sense why they would do it like that, but it would just be funny if they didn't, and like Black Panther dies and he just like fucking goes to
hell,
goes to hell or Valhalla or some
because
shit.
he didn't
He's
believe in
like,
Valhalla.
Wait a minute, what?
What the? Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, literally, like everyone.
But I saved everyone.
Everyone who died in the blip, they go to hell. It's like, what the hell? It's like, you didn't die in battle. No Valhalla. It's like, there's only one? What the fuck?
That would be an asshole move.
Yeah, that would
Oh
be
yeah,
fun.
also in Hercules.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Yeah, our
Yeah.
second, I think it was the second.
Yeah,
post-credits
second
scene.
post-credit scene. Zeus isn't actually dead.
Shit.
He just kind of
And-
burgered it right in his titty.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's good.
and
He's all
you
good.
know, he's like, when did we become laughing stocks and shit? And he's basically sending his son Hercules. He's like, you're gonna go teach Thor a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Which gives me high hopes for the fifth film.
Yeah, I think it'd be a cool
cool.
premise for the fifth film. But I mean, let's call a spade here, boys. There ain't no shot Hercules is beating Thor.
Well, no, he'll probably beat him up for a little bit, and then Thor will win. But I think it'll be an interesting dynamic because Hercules is kind of like Thor without the lightning powers.
Yeah, but Hercules is also a demigod. At least he's in the original mythology. He's a demigod, whereas Thor is a full-on
bitch.
God. He is also. Pretty much all the Greek gods are though. Let's be real.
My knowledge of Hercules only extends to the Disney film where he was only a demigod because he got fucked with as a child.
He's a demigod in the mythology because he's the son of Zeus and a mortal woman. He's not not Hera's son.
Let's assume that Zeus was faithful for one child here, and we'll go with that until the movie says otherwise. For one child.
That sounds hard.
It's ironic that Zeus married his sister and turned his sister into his wife, and then made it his life's goal to be with anything but his wife. Not even just women, like cows, fucking bulls, snakes. Just
his son.
Yeah, really.
He did fuck Hercules.
Zeus went full Bill Clinton in that motherfucker.
Zeus is like, all right.
Anyone but Hillary.
Did he play the sax? Did he play the saxophone naked?
Zeus is like,
he probably could.
Zeus like, hey sis, you want to do this whole marriage thing? She's like, yeah, sure. He's like, all right, I have to get away from this woman. I need to fuck something, just anything but her, for the love of God.
For the love of God.
I would say overall, Thor: Love and Thunder is very much one of those above average good movies for me, but it is definitely a weaker film to me than some of the other films we've gotten in Phase 4. Like, out of all the ones I've seen in Phase 4, I would say this is my least favorite. Like, I like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange a lot more.
Solid.
Black Widow.
It's enjoyable, but it isn't going to blow your socks off.
Yeah, I think it's fun to watch with friends. But
Yeah.
I do think it's
So
it's not a great movie.
unlike Nathan, who's a contrarian douche and does half points, I'm doing a solid 7 out of 10.
Douche for half points?
Just could you really not round down or round up?
Fine, I could give it a
it's
7.
a 5. It was a 5. You round up, so
Exactly.
I'll give it a 7. Bitch boy.
Backbone at all.
Seriously, this man has negative constitution.
Come on,
Fine,
Nathan,
I'll
stick
give it a
to your guns.
6.
Fuck you.
Just stick with the 6.5.
Oh,
What's
no,
wrong
if I'm-
with
if I'm
that?
Of course, the guy who's only
bitch
seen
boy, he's in
of
half
course the
points.
guy's only seen a fifth of the MCU. Is like
Why?
6.
Why do you have to change your opinion every time Dylan says something?
Because it's funny.
Fuck Dylan.
Fuck you.
You appeased him. You did what he wanted.
Well, then he
Give
made
in
fun of
to
me
your
for it.
hatred. Give in to
He
your
made
hatred.
fun of you for it in the first place. What are you talking about?
Good.
I'm trying out my options here.
You have no options, you fucking dumb.
I don't score things, so I'm not giving it a score. I say it gets a solid watch it once.
Nah, it gets a solid
for me.
watch it at least twice for me.
Just
Not
for
back
Christmas.
to back, obviously, but watch it and then a few months down the line be like, yeah, I'll watch it again.
If you're doing a rewatch, perhaps, I don't know, but it's not one of the MCU films I would go back to a lot of.
No, not a lot, but to say just only ever watch the movie once, it's like once, never again.
No, I'm not even saying that. It's if you ever feel compelled to watch it, I'd say at least give it a watch, and then form an opinion. I'm not saying watch it once and never again. No, that's ridiculous. There's no point in doing that. If you're going to watch a movie and then never watch it again, just don't watch the movie at all.
Unless you watch it and it's an unfathomable piece of shit like Dougal.
Well, yeah, like Batman and Robin or some shit like that. Or if it's one of those movies that's so bad it needs to be seen to be believed, like Batman and Robin.
Or Batman
We
versus
should do a Batman
Superman.
and Robin. We should do a Batman and Robin episode.
We should all pick
I wanna
out a
talk about that
shitty
movie.
joke movie to watch together. So we have 3 shitty
George
movie
Clooney-
reviews.
Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin gets my vote because that movie sucks.
I don't know
It
what I
also
would
kills
want to do
Superman.
as my movie to just shit on.
Spider-Man 3.
No, I fucking love Spider-Man 3. Hell no.
It's considered
no.
a bad movie.
I don't
It could
give
just
a
be a
shit.
Spider-Man.
I have an idea
I didn't
for
ask
mine.
if you did.
I have a
I'm just
good
saying
one.
we could use it as an excuse to review Spider-Man 3. We don't even have to dunk on the movie.
Oh, I wouldn't. I would fucking praise it as the gospel.
Again, I'm not saying you can't. Where's this animosity coming from?
Because we're talking about movies we wanted to shit on, and you said we could do Spider-Man 3. And
I didn't even say we had to shit on. I'm just saying do
No,
what's considered shitty
but
movies.
you brought it up into a thread of movies that we were going to shit on specifically because you brought up Batman and Robin. You brought.
I don't know, Nathan. You and Nathan could love the movie for all I give a shit.
I mean, I have a movie.
I don't know.
I have a movie that I feel like none of us are gonna like, and it makes me
Okay.
super excited.
Well, at least tell us the movie.
All right, so Dylan,
Yeah.
how do you feel about live-action anime movies?
No.
I mean, I already don't give a shit about anime, but turning into
No.
live action just doesn't work.
Oh, you want the Dragon Ball Evolution?
No, we're doing a different live-action anime movie.
Tokyo Ghoul?
Yes, and it's gonna be fun. That
Nah,
movie looks like absolute shit.
So does this
I'm so excited. Dylan, do you like cannibalism? Because this would be the movie for you.
I mean, I feel like this is a loaded question. I feel like I'm kind of like getting trapped if I answer one way or another of if I like cannibalism. So I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
All right, you'll
I
love
mean,
the movie.
sometimes cannibalism. Have you seen that yet?
No, but I feel like a first-time watch with the three of us will be fun.
Oh god, I don't want to watch that movie.
Also, I feel nauseous, so let's wrap this up.
No,
All right.
Go to the bathroom. We'll wait on you.
No,
The episode can keep going.
no. We're
Keep
literally
it
at the
just-
time limit.
We can discuss the intricacies of closing the episode. I don't know. I don't know where I was going. with
it's
that.
hot as hell, and it's like a full 90 degrees in this room. I would like to leave too.
How about you don't have your recording studio be in Satan's asshole?
Well, thanks
Well, I
for
mean, it's just
watching,
what
everyone,
happens.
or listening. So, this was a very haphazard episode, as always. Let us know your opinions on Thor: Love and Thunder on Twitter or in the comments below, whichever you prefer.
Speaking
Let us
of
know why
Twitter,
we're
check
wrong.
out the pod Twitter in the description.
Yep, and you can also find our personal Twitters there, and also a link to my Twitch channel. Supposedly I stream sometimes, and sometimes Dylan's there. Maybe. I don't know.
If it's Star
Star
Wars, I'll
Wars,
be
though.
there. If it's not Star Wars, I probably won't.
Not for Arkham?
Okay, I'll be there for Arkham. Batman and Star Wars.
Ah,
What if I stream Avengers?
Possibly.
but why?
Possibly. Why not?
We could stream whenever
Why?
when Bucky drops. Anyway, we're
Sure.
getting off topic.
Why not?
Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Goodbye. God, I'm sweating bullets here.
When should I?